Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 regular Selectmen's meeting. Let's see, I haven't even looked to see who's here we have Ken and Noah,
Ed?
as I don't see Ed up there yet.
He's here.
Oh, yep, there he is, yep. And Mark has been excused tonight, and I am here, so we have town manager, town planner, town finance director, assessing officer will be with us. Let's see, who else is here? Oh, we have recreation here.
And
We have
deputy clerk.
lots of people here.
Deputy clerk, Julie.
No, oh, I didn't even see Julie there. Hey, Julie. All right, please stand with me and salute the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order is the approval of the February 9th minutes. I know, Ken, you had a question on one of the articles.
Yes. Article 15, we did the motion for the abatement for the tree growth penalty,
Right,
and the second motion to approve it, the minutes have Mark as seconding the motion. He wasn't there at the time,
right, he had left.
right?
So-
So I think we need to table this because I'm not sure who the actual second was, and have Patty go back and take a look at it.
Right,
Yeah, she'll have to go
Right.
back on the tape.
so, all right, we have a motion to table on the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
If there's no further discussion, I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So that will be tabled. All right. We have no public comments tonight, as we have no public hearings tonight. BCTV committee does not have a report. Is Jeremy here? Is he going to give us the report?
He is here.
I am here. Stand by. Let me start a video here. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Jeremy.
So we're moving at Envision. We've done a couple pretty exciting meetings. A lot of it is just at the moment still sort of stirring the pot in the background, trying to find a way to make the historical society viable again. And Elise, who's on the call with me, she and I had a great meeting with James and with Steve to talk about branding, sort of as far as the whole town is concerned, as well as signage, future ideas, and where we were headed, including a discussion I think that will be continued with you all regarding messaging and the new signage that actually includes messaging. We talked about digital signs versus signs that have messaging, like the sandwich boards you guys have now, but built in. That had already been approved and is being manufactured, so we're not only on top of that, but it was anticipated. Now we're working on several other proposals with the town and in conjunction with Envision, specifically thinking about covering more components with a kind of shared branding and vision. Did I say that right, Elise? Like a system. In addition to that, I had a very, very elucidating meeting with Pat and Paul regarding the Envision Berwick's mission to preserve the rural nature of the town, and what James has started to head me towards, which is the strip that potentially will be in some way agriculturally protected, and bringing, at least as a starting point, the working farmers, or anybody who is, in ag in that corridor together. And even some of the community members who own that open space, so that we can start to figure out the kind of Venn diagram of where everybody's interests overlap, and for Envision to start there in an attempt to meet those needs. That's, I think, the broad sweeping stuff. I don't know if any of you use social media with any regularity, but I will say that Marie Miller and with Elise setting her in motion with templates has done, I think, a really stunning job of taking the social media to a whole new place very quickly. And I'm really excited about that, seeing the shout outs, and even, with working with Angela and Rec to come up with I think, a really gorgeous invitation in a way to Easter on March 27th, is it? All right. Which I think is just a great way to start off this new look, and trying to tie everything together in a very in a lovely and appropriate package. Yeah, so that's the short version. We have obviously our next official meeting for Envision Berwick scheduled on the same night as the dual meeting with you guys and the planning. So we are hoping to have, if enough people want to attend, a sort of sidebar meeting next Tuesday night to try and get some other stuff going, because it's a long time before that April meeting. And yeah, with that, I think that's the broad sweeping Envision stuff. Am I forgetting anything, James?
No, I think that's a good summary. There's always more, but
Yeah. There's always more with Envision Berwick. We know that. Is you guys just keep moving. Any questions of Jeremy from the rest of the board? If not, thank you, Jeremy. We look forward
Absolutely.
to.
Let me just ask, Elise, were we going to pitch anything, or are we putting anything out there as it relates to branding, signage, or otherwise tonight?
I don't think we have anything to pitch tonight. I am here because I was under the assumption that an agenda item was to swear in new people to Envision Berwick. I don't know if that's happening tonight or next Tuesday or next month. That's happening tonight.
Tonight.
That'll be happening tonight
Yep.
Okay,
stay
cool.
tuned.
in
Yeah.
just a few minutes.
Perfect. Thank
Gotta
you.
wait your turn.
Nothing else beyond that for tonight.
All right. Right. Thank you, guys.
Great. I'm going to turn my video off so I don't have to keep using my head to block the unfolded shirt behind me.
All right. All right. We brings us to featured presentation. Is we have Carl Strohmeyer is presenting for the Great Thicket and Rachel Carson National Wildlife Refuges.
All right, yeah. Hey, thank you for inviting us tonight, and we're really excited about our presentation. We want to talk a little bit about the establishment of the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge in Maine, which just occurred this past December, and Berwick and South Berwick are the first municipalities in Maine to provide a home for this National Wildlife Refuge. So it's really a neat thing, and have a little presentation prepared, and I'm going to share the screen now. I'm Carl Strohmeyer, the refuge manager, and Ryan Kleinert, who's our assistant refuge manager, and Kate O'Brien, our lead wildlife biologist, are also here tonight. And we're all going to present a bit about this great thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great. Yep. So so that this is the topic, and we're just going to kind of start at the beginning with who we are and what we do. And we are the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which manages the National Wildlife Refuge System, of which Great Thicket is a part. We are a bureau in the U.S. Department of the Interior, our principal public land management agency. So we are one of several bureaus, among them the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Reclamation, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and ourselves, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And we manage lands throughout the country. We have different administrative regions. Maine happens to be in the North Atlantic Appalachian region. For ourselves, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, our mission is quite clear. It's a wildlife first mission that promotes human appreciation and use of nature. So we manage habitats for the wild species and the conservation values, the ecosystem values, such as clean air, clean water, open spaces. We heard earlier tonight from about the initiative in Berwick to preserve open lands and working farms, and this is very much consistent with Fish and Wildlife Service philosophy to have public lands that are both for wildlife habitat and human use. And the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge, which has now been established in Berwick, is one of 565 national wildlife refuges across the country. So this is a system of protected lands, and many of them were established along flyways. Migratory birds are a key feature of the early years of the refuge system establishment. If you look at the East Coast, you see a pattern, and we have a central flyway, Pacific flyway. But increasingly, these lands are managed for unique assemblages of plants and the uses that they permit. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The administrative center where we manage the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge is located at the Rachel Carson National Wildlife Refuge in Wells. And the Rachel Carson Refuge, which is one of 4 national wildlife refuges in Maine, manages lands along 50 miles of coast between Kittery and Cape Elizabeth. And that refuge was established in 1966 and renamed in honor of the great conservationist Rachel Carson in 1970. So the staff managing the Great Thicket are located in Wells and are the same staff that work on the Rachel Carson Refuge. And it's kind of neat talking about things to celebrate during the pandemic. This is the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Rachel Carson Refuge. So just a shout out for that. But we're here tonight to talk about the Great Thicket Refuge. And the Great Thicket Refuge is different, of course, from the Rachel Carson Refuge. Each refuge has purposes, unique purposes for which it was established and enabled by Congress. And the purpose of the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge is a landscape level conservation effort in 6 states, New York and 5 in New England, including New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Maine, to protect shrubland habitats and young forests. This is a habitat type that is dwindling in these states, and it's a really important habitat and ecosystem for lots of species, which we will be hearing about. And like all refuges, this refuge has a very precise acquisition boundary. The acquisition boundary is an area where we acquire lands for the refuge purposes from willing sellers. And you can see in the on the right there, the Berwick York focus area. This is the area where the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge in Maine is going to have many of its lands. There's another area up north in Cape Elizabeth. It's a bit smaller, and also in keeping with congressional mandate and enabling legislation, each refuge can only acquire up to a certain amount of land. And this, the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge is able to acquire up to 2,000 acres of land for conservation purposes in the Berwick-York focus area. And a really exciting thing about what we do is working with partners. So it's not just about the refuge acquiring land, but it's working with partners. That's the key element of what we do. And Ryan will be talking about that, and more specifically about the refuge itself and our plans for the parcel we've acquired in Berwick and South Berwick. This is just a snapshot of our staff. We've got about 10 permanent staff and 20 seasonal staff that come on during the spring and summer. Ryan?
Thanks, Carl. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Kleinert. I am the Assistant Refuge Manager at Rachel Carson National Wildlife Refuge. It's nice to meet all of you all this evening. So this is the newest acquisition that borders both Berwick and South Berwick. It establishes Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge in Maine, which we're very excited about. And we're hoping it'll be one of many acquisitions for Great Thicket. This property has tremendous conservation value for a variety of species. Is made up of a matrix of habitat, including mixed northern hardwoods and emerging wetlands. And we do plan to conduct management on this parcel in order to enhance its ecological value for New England cottontail and other species that benefit from an early successional shrub habitat. That type of management mostly looks like hand crews going in, thinning the canopy to allow for shrubby plant species to grow, to make it kind of thick. Preferred habitat for the New England cottontail. Kate O'Brien, our refuge biologist, will be speaking to that in a little bit more detail. We were excited to learn that Knight's Pond has access and is popular with anglers. So that was a big plus when we acquired this property. Carl, you can go to the next slide. Wildlife conservation is our primary mission, but compatible wildlife-dependent recreation is something that we encourage and emphasize. We want the community to engage and experience and connect with the refuge. Listed here are our 6 big recreational uses. These 6 are supported and highlighted throughout the refuge, and not just the refuge, the entire refuge system adopts these 6 as priority activities. They include hunting, fishing, wildlife observation, photography, environmental education, interpretation. Opportunities to pursue these activities throughout the Rachel Carson Refuge, and hopefully, as we acquire more property, the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge, is something we value very, very much so. So opportunities for each of these activities exist throughout each of our divisions across Rachel Carson. Carl, you can go to the next slide. We are a coastal refuge, and we have a robust fishing program. Many areas, there are many areas accessible for the public. Each management division of Rachel Carson has access to fishing sites. Obviously, striped bass is one of the preferred flagship species and is of interest of many anglers. That's actually Sean Campbell, our maintenance worker, highlighting one of his striped bass catches. That's probably, I don't know, say maybe 31, 32 inches, at least 30 inches. Carl, you can go to the next slide. Partnerships are essential to everything we do. The refuge spans 50 miles across the coast and includes over 14 municipalities. Provides us with a great opportunity to engage partners. We strive for a community-based conservation approach to actualize meaningful stewardship on the land. And some of our partners include nonprofits such as the Maine Audubon and Nature Conservancy, Saco Bay Trails, to either provide wildlife management or protection, or to enhance public use like Saco Bay Trails. We have partnered with them to increase our ability to provide quality hiking trails to the public. Of course, we work very closely with each of the town managers and municipalities, and all of our adjacent landowners are very much so valued partners. One of our claim to fame is that out of all the refuges, we quite possibly have more adjacent private landowners than any other refuge. So we work with adjacent landowners very, very closely. Can you go to the next slide? We want people to come to the refuge to experience different habitats and to learn about conservation, biodiversity, stewardship, and the work that we do. We host school groups throughout the spring and some camps throughout the summer. We offer weekly environmental education programs throughout the summer months. Hopefully we'll get back to that this summer. Of course, we had to take a break this past summer due to COVID. We have plans to increase our public offerings as we continue to grow our volunteer services program. On staff, we also have a federal wildlife officer, Zach Ostigi. His primary function is public safety. His work is very similar to state game wardens, focused on public safety and wildlife habitat protection. He's often the first person our recreational users have an opportunity to meet and valued member of our team. So if you see him out in the public, feel free to say hi. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Kate O'Brien, our senior wildlife biologist.
Great. Hi. Thanks for meeting with us tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the wildlife of National Wildlife Refuge System and a little bit about how we approach wildlife. Fish and Wildlife Service, as Carl had mentioned earlier, we generally will manage migratory bird species that move across state lines that are hard to manage for any one particular state. So migratory birds, threatened and endangered species, and then a whole collection of other wildlife that occur on our lands. Next slide. The two species I'm going to talk about a little bit, actually I forgot the species before that was the salt marsh sparrow, which is a salt marsh obligate species. Not something we're going to talk about tonight, but that's another story. The two species I'm going to talk about is the New England cottontail rabbit and also Blanding's turtles, just a little bit. And these two species illustrate a new approach that Fish and Wildlife Service is taking with our partners to try to work with rare species to stop them from needing to be have any additional regulatory protections. So we call it the At-Risk Species Program. And our goal here is to make sure that these species do well through time and don't require additional regulatory protections. So Gray Thicket is a big part of what that looks like for these two critters. Next slide. So the New England cottontail in Maine is probably one of my favorite species. It's a little bit of an interesting story. It used to be extremely common, very, very common, especially after the 1947 fires swept through Maine. And as some of our ag land reverted to shrublands, it was very, very common species, commonly hunted, commonly seen. But as our shrublands grew to forests, as we drained and ditched some of our naturally occurring shrublands, we just really tended to lose the species quite a bit. We used to have it in about 24 towns in Maine in the early 2000s, and now they're known from 6. Our knowledge is certainly incomplete, being that it likes to live in a really thick, tangled underbrush. It's a species that can be hard to detect. It's a species that can be hard to see unless you're hanging around the edge of a shrubland at dawn. So we don't have perfect information, and we'd love to hear if people see a brown rabbit in winter or a little cottontail rabbit here in Maine. But all of our signs are pointing to a continuing decline. Within the global world of New England cottontail, Maine has about 17% of the known occupied sites. And another kind of interesting thing with the New England cottontail is there's a non-native species called Eastern cottontail. It looks very, very similar. It's really common. You know, it's the rabbit you might see hopping around Prescott Park in Portsmouth. Fairly common in New Hampshire, very common in Massachusetts, and it doesn't seem to really get along with New England cottontail. Maine is home to about 50% of our New England cottontail only patches. And in many other patches, we have both Eastern cottontail and New England cottontail in the same landscape, and that doesn't work out very well. The property that we're talking about today that we've just acquired is within hopping distance of historic cottontail sites. Your neighbors, Rollingsford, New Hampshire, is also managing New England cottontail, and they're seeing some good success of bringing those rabbits back. So we are confident that if they're not right there on the property, that they're certainly within hopping distance. They use those power lines and the railway and other shrubby areas to get around. But we certainly would like to hear from you if you do see them. Next slide. So what we've been doing for many years now is that we've been working with partners. We've been asking people to join us in helping manage habitat to help conserve the New England cottontail. Habitat management can be simple as like a shrubby edgeland, a feathered edge for a forest, working with agricultural lands, managing some of those lands that are not in production. These rabbits are not purists. They're not, they do pretty well in human landscapes as long as they have that thick cover understory. Some people in Berwick might be hearing from our New England Cottontail Conservation Coordinator, Jeff Tash, who actually lives in Berwick. He'll start reaching out to some select few landowners within the next several weeks to see what their level of interest is in managing for our New England cottontail and shrubland species. This is definitely an initiative that's range wide, and it's pretty, you know, it's been pretty successful, and the Great Thicket is a huge part of it for us. Next slide. And, you know, when we're talking about New England cottontail rabbits, we're not talking about single species management. He might be the umbrella species that protects all these other species, both common and rare. So from everything from American woodcock, white-tailed deer, towhees, there's all these critters that rely on this kind of shrubby habitat that we've really lost over the years. So when we work to preserve New England cottontail rabbits and we work to have lands in the Great Thicket, we're protecting a whole bunch of other species. So next slide. And that brings us to, you know, we want to hear from you. What questions do you have for us?
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from any of the board members? I don't hear any. I have a couple questions if you have time. Is what's the total acreage of the Great Thicket in Berwick and South Berwick?
It's 47 acres, and about 7 acres are in Berwick and about 40 acres are in South Berwick. Yep.
Are you looking to add more, contiguous acreage? Are you talking to the landowners in the area to see if they want to, donate or sell any more land, or how are you going about that process?
We did issue a press release about the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge back in January, and our policy is that we only acquire land from willing sellers. So we are starting to do outreach of certain types. Kate mentioned Jeff Tash, who is the New England Cottontail landscape coordinator, and he is reaching out to landowners to form partnerships. So we're kind of starting to roll out a strategy, but we, as Ryan pointed out, we work with partners. So we're very much about working with land trusts and other land management agencies or organizations and the towns themselves to manage the lands and link. Ideally, the parcels we acquire would help link pre-existing conservation lands.
We're also working very, very closely with the Maine Inland Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. We work together on a daily basis. So some people may have been in contact with Corey Stearns about New England Cottontail surveys or land management, but we're a good team.
What kind of educational programs are you offering for bird watching and things like that? Is that something that will take place in the thicket?
Oh, yeah, thanks. That's a great question. Hopefully, as we acquire more properties and if they're publicly accessible, we would like to bring, some of our interns over the summer host walks, interpretive walks about native plants or songbirds. So have an opportunity to expand it to different parts of the state of Southern Maine, of the refuge would be ideal. So Great. As we get more properties and if they're publicly accessible, and of course we're going to try to make them so. That's a goal of ours for sure.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, because one of the things that Berwick is working on is we have a new recreation director, and we have quite a few walking trails in Berwick now. So that's one of the things we're looking to expand on. We're looking for partners, to do things like that, so that we can have better opportunities. So.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I'm Angela. I'm the new recreation director. I would love to partner with you guys to when you guys establish those programs so we can help you guys get people in. With the Great Works Land Trust right now, we have their stuff on our website. So any kind of partnership that we can do to provide information and education to the community, I'm more than happy to help. You're welcome.
It is the other thing too is Carl knows he's already talked to our director for our public television station. You know, any kind of video or anything that you guys have that you want to put out there, just get in contact with Terry at BCTV, and she's always looking for something to put on air. So if you have anything from something a couple minutes long to a half hour or so long, I'm sure she would be more than willing to put that up on our station for you. So, I just one other thing is I know is my family in the past has worked with the National Resource Council to get our family land harvested and stuff. I know that there's a program of them creating cottontail habit, and I know of at least one place in Berwick, probably about 3 miles as a crow flies from the thicket where they did that just a year or so ago. I think they cleared, I don't know if it's 10 acres of scrub land. So are you guys aware of all of that that's going on in the area?
Yes, yep. We've been working with NRCS as well. There's we were working closely with one of their staff members who's actually moved on to a different job, but we are in touch with the NRCS and we're trying to connect landowners with those programs as well. So we're starting to roll out our next phase of outreach, and NRCS will be a really important partner in that, as are their wildlife programs.
All right. Any questions from the rest of the board or any of the other participants that may still be hanging in? If not, I thank you for the presentation.
That was great. Thank you.
Like I said, you found a willing partner here in Berwick, and we're looking forward to continuing this relationship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yep.
All right. That moves us on to James Bellissimo and warrants for the June 8th town meeting.
All right. Go with the easy one first. Food sovereignty ordinance. What this does, it allows folks, farmers, local producers to produce food at their home and to be able to sell it directly to patrons without having, needing, I think the writers of this ordinance would say excessive licensing to be able to do that out of their home. That's really all it does. It doesn't affect anything that goes to actual markets, and it doesn't apply to meat or poultry, but for jams, milk, and like pickled things, that's what it applies to. Are there any questions on that?
Are they required to report to the Department of Health and go through all kinds of inspections and things like that, or is it on a small enough scale?
Small enough scale. So this allows them to circumvent that.
Okay, good.
And it's actually a statute that was adopted by the Maine legislature about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, great.
It's a small but important step.
The reason behind it was there were some municipalities that were looking to put licensing requirements on people like with roadside stands and farmers markets and things like that, and rather than get into the excessive bureaucracy, for small scale things, they passed this, as James said, a couple sessions ago, I believe is what it was.
That's food sovereignty. The next thing, we have a zoning amendment that was proposed by Pond Road and Perry's Way. It ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 lots. out there where it's off Route 4. So instead of it being a rural commercial industrial zone, the proposal is for it to be rural residential. And it's this type of rezoning is something that we've been talking about with comprehensive planning because I think creating these nice clean lines you can see on our zoning map just doesn't really match up to reality. Where I mean, you get off Route 4, it gets pretty looks into farmland, open space pretty quickly. So the main difference between R3 and RCI, I'll make a point that every zone has commercial uses. It's just a spectrum. RCI allows for transfer stations, metal recycling, industries, where rural residential is mostly for farmland and open spaces.
Any questions of James on that one? Now, James, this was mostly driven, I think, by the marijuana proposal out there.
Yeah.
Where we had that, found out that loophole where we thought everything was on Route 4, but it wasn't.
Right.
So basically, this is taking the residential people and putting them back in a residential neighborhood.
Right.
So
Right. I mean, we look at the RCI zone as, I mean, we're trying to get property taxes and have everything where we're utilizing Route 4 for, the heavier uses. And last and not least, not this one. I already did this one. All right. Last and not least are land use ordinance amendments. I'll go over, I went over these probably 3 or 4 times with planning board. I'll try not to bore you guys. Let's see. So what's going on here is this is amending and simplifying the definitions of frontage. You'll see that there's things that are crossed out that's being proposed to be deleted, and anything in yellow highlight, red, and underline is new language. So what's happening here, what's happened with Jen and I in the planning and code office is we get a ton of questions, probably 1 or 2 a week when we're in the busy season, about what this means. I think what this does is it helps us administer what it's saying easier, and it makes it more accessible for the general public. So what happened here is there's a definition inside of a definition, which ends up contradicting 7.21 later on. So what this is, every lot needs frontage, and you can bring in your own right-of-way to get frontage off that right-of-way. And what you need if you have one house off a right-of-way, it has to be 12 feet wide, 15 inches of gravel. And there's also stipulations that culverts and ditches need to be installed at appropriate points. This just takes if there's just a paragraph block of text, you can get lost pretty easily trying to read what that means. Table makes it much simpler. So this doesn't change anything. It just takes a paragraph, puts it into a table. And the other thing that it does is that it specifies that the mechanism for determining the appropriate points is determined by an engineer or the town. And then all this cross out here is getting rid of it's redundant language. There's pretty much a page that applies to a very specific scenario for lots that are created before 1987 on town discontinued roads. There's probably 3 or 4 town discontinued roads. Again, the deleting it all doesn't effectively change anything. It's just it gets rid of redundant language and rephrases it in a more concise way.
So everything that's being deleted is stated in another section.
Yeah.
In a more concise way.
Right. It says they can get they can put a house on a town discontinued road, and you get a second house if you give it to a kid, as long as it meets road standards.
All right. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
So, number 3, marijuana amendments. So this closes that. Tom called it like the loophole that I think the intent was to restrict on RCI on the major highways. So that puts that in there. The next one about establishments under ownership on non-contiguous lots. So that would make, even if the same marijuana business was under the same ownership, the setback would apply if they weren't on lots that were touching each other. So that way they couldn't cross the street. They'd still have to meet the 1,000-foot setback. The next two here on the other line, that exempts marijuana testing facilities. Marijuana testing facilities have potential for high personal property, high property taxes if it's a new building, and it's a fairly low security compared to the other marijuana uses. And it just would be, it would finish a marijuana cluster. Changes 4 through 7 are very minuscule, pretty much either typo things or very small clarifications. I don't like getting rid of person because it's already defined, clarifying that they have to be set back from any well, and then clarifying and getting rid of the type of screening needed for a garbage disposal, for a trash bin, and then changing the sawmill horsepower from 30 to 50. We had that where it's, you know, it's an arbitrary number, but I think 50 is probably more appropriate for where we're at. Are there any questions on that? I know I kind of blew through that, but.
I think they're all pretty self-explanatory.
The last one, and probably this is the most important one and the most impactful one. This is for the Village Overlay District, and it's a provision to allow exceeding the max footprint size as long as it's not for a non-residential use on that first floor. So the building can exceed 15,000 square feet as long as the first floor is used for commercial, manufacturing, recreation, or parking. That's Great Falls Construction has indicated they are interested in putting in a all commercial first floor building, and it would the way that the 15,000 square foot maximum, it would limit what they want to do, and I think that would just, it flies in the face of what we're trying to do downtown. Also, I'll make a note that there is a group that's interested in putting in a 21,000 square foot recreational facility as well in the Village Overlay District. And that's just something that, again, I don't think we want to restrict that either. So I think that's the end of my my spiel for tonight.
Any questions for James? It doesn't appear. All right. Thank you, James. It'll bring us to our appointments to the Envision Berwick Committee. As we have 3 here. We have Kevin Jessel, Cyrus Morgan, and Elise Weeks. We'll take them up one at a time. I know Kevin has been on before. He's been on the board. I don't know if is he up there? I don't think he's attending.
I don't see Kevin or Cyrus.
Nope. But James, if you want to speak up for Kevin. And
sure. Yeah. Kevin is a paramedic, and he lives in town, and he had baby number 2, and he said he had to sign off for a little bit, but now baby 2 isn't so small, so now he's back and looking to get involved in this new and exciting iteration of Envision Berwick.
So, Kevin came on a couple years ago. I'd met him then. It seems like he had a lot of good ideas and a lot of energy. So he would be appointed for a term ending December 31st in 2022. Any questions? If not, I'll take a motion to accept.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Thank you. So next we have, it's listed as Morgan Cyrus, but James informs me that it's Cyrus Morgan. I don't see Cyrus up there either. Could,
I probably got the Zoom link to him too late, but I mean, Cyrus, he's been involved for a few months. He's got great ideas. I think he's somebody that I think provides a lot of constructive feedback. We have a lot of grandiose ideas, but I think Cyrus is a real a doer, and it's nice to have both. And just as an example, he's already volunteered to help with Penny Pond. We have some areas that have been kind of degrading, and he's already stepped up to the plate and get it done.
any questions about Cyrus? If not, I'm looking for a motion to appoint. His term would also end December 31st in 2022.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. There's no further discussion. I'll go through the roll. It was Ed,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And Elise. Elise is here. She can talk to herself. Hey, Elise, how you doing?
Hi, good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Good. Well, I'm excited to join Envision Berwick. I was first brought into the mix with Serena, who invited me to develop the branding for the town, which we've done. And I live here, I work from home. I have a graphic design business, and I'm just really excited about what's going on here in town. I'm excited to continue with the brand rollout and helping sort of in any way that I can, in the ways that I can. Some of this will happen in my professional capacity through, I have contracts with the town to do design work, but I do donate quite a bit of my time and volunteer for some things as far as like kind of lending any expertise I have around developing like marketing plans. And I know Jeremy has tons of ideas for what is going to happen with Envision Berwick and, kind of making a more cohesive system for the various departments in town. So, I'm kind of helping to execute all of that stuff and just, I'm interested in, other things that are happening with some of the other committees that have kind of become defunct over the years. The arts committee, I have a young daughter who's in elementary school here, so I'm super interested in what's going on with the rec department. And just, obviously preserving spaces and farmland and all of that. And, I think I really got involved in the summer, working with James on the lawn chairs, the brand launch and the lawn chairs event. I think that's probably where a lot of my efforts may also come into play, is when we kind of pick all of that back up again, because I just really enjoyed that process and we got a lot done in a little bit of time. And so I could go on and on, but yeah, I'm just kind of excited to kind of bring my design marketing brain and working with Marie and Jeremy on kind of getting the social media ramped up. That's already kind of happening, and just kind of putting a whole plan and process around communications, campaigns, things like that we want to do here in Berwick. So there's lots to do, and I'm hoping I can rope my husband into all of this as well. So.
Now that you said it publicly, he has to, right?
Yeah, well, he's good with tools. He's a handy dude. So I know there's lots of trails that need help and things like that. So yeah, he was pretty helpful when we were doing lawn chairs with signage and things like that. So.
Any questions of Elise? I do know is that I really like the branding that you rolled out. I like the simplicity of the design, but it's rather unique also. And I also like the colors, those are my favorite. But if there's no other questions, we take a motion to appoint Elise to the Envision Berwick. It says here that her term would be December 31st, 2021. Is that correct, James? Do you know?
He's 22.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was 22. Yeah, so 2022.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. We'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone.
as we look forward to seeing all your good work. So now we have an appointment to the planning board. Paul Amitucci for a term ending December 31st, 2023. Is this for a full?
Yeah,
term?
so David Ross Lyons issued his resignation a couple weeks ago. David was part of the planning board for a couple years. He was appreciated his time, and Paul's volunteered to step up.
So we typically take whoever is on the reserve and move them up, the alternate. We have two alternates already, don't we?
I was thinking, just because it's all been so recent, instead of juggling all the positions and do the swearing in, that Paul fills in the regular member. Based off of what Phil was the alternate and Amber was the alternate, it seemed like they're okay with being.
Yeah, they just
alternates.
came in 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, there's not
So-
not much room for the seniority part.
Yeah.
Paul, you're,
I was gonna say, Paul is here. Let's hear from Paul. Introduce yourself, Paul, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Paul Amitucci. I'm a resident of Berwick, of course. And really my interest in doing this is that for me, it's time to get back. I've been attending planning board meetings on a fairly regular basis, as James can attest to, for about a year now. And I understand how the board works. I understand its important role for all of us who reside in the town. I have a strong interest in Berwick and a desire to help with its growth, but at the same time preserving our unique heritage and historical significance. My current position is in the mortgage industry, and I manage construction and renovation lending nationally for my company. It gives me a good background for the planning board and looking at many of the projects that will come before it. So I think that's a helpful attribute to have. The other thing is that I'm also a member and currently second vice commander of the Berwick American Legion Post, and being involved in all our many activities for the benefit of the community, which I love to do. I want to continue to be part of Berwick and a positive contributing factor and a real member of this town. So this is a great opportunity for me. I would not take it lightly, and it would be an honor to serve.
Oh, thank you. Any questions from the board for Paul? Doesn't appear to be. I will ask the rest of the board as we said, we're looking at, we're talking about putting Paul in as a full-time regular. We just appointed two alternates, and like I said, typically we would move an alternate up, but they've had one meeting under their belt so far?
yeah.
I don't know, I have no objection to putting Paul in as a full-time regular planning board member. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, if you could weigh in.
I have no objection. I mean, have you heard anything from the alternates, James?
I mean, my impression is they're happy to serve, and it's just the ability. It's so rare that things get voted down that, like, as an alternate member you have almost equal say. I mean, everyone has the opportunity to speak, ask questions. So
And typically, at least every meeting, at least one alternate is a voting member.
right, exactly, and that's
So it's not like you're getting left out. So
Yeah, if we're not violating any policy, then I have no objection to appointing Paul into the position.
Ken and Noah, your thoughts?
Like Ed said, as long as there's nothing out there that says the
we
alternate
don't.
has to move up and be refilled, then I have no objection.
His background is really strong compared to your alternates too.
Yeah. So is I don't believe we have any written policy. It's been more just tradition to do that. But like I said, it's typically you have an alternate that's been serving on the board for a year or more, and typically we just move them up. Where as I said, it's been such a big turnover unfortunately lately that it doesn't seem to be that big a thing. So. All right, if so, as I will look for a motion to appoint Paul Amitucci to a regular planning board position with a term ending December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. With no further discussion, I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Congratulations, Paul, and we look forward to your good work.
Welcome aboard.
So,
Thank you all.
all right, that brings us to our unfinished business.
The fire station, we talked earlier, I brought it up that CMP was interested in renting the building for the winter months, the old fire station, and it's sitting empty. Did have some stuff in there from Public Works, but we moved most of it out. They're willing to pay $1,000. I told them $1,000 a month. That more than covers our cost of lighting and heating. So they provided all the right liability insurance, and with CMP, it's not too difficult. So just let people know who is in there and what's going on. They'll only be there 3 or 4 months, and they're having some major renovation work done in one of their garages where they normally are. So we're providing a home from them, and they're paying the cost. So,
All right.
so that's an update where we are. Good tenants.
Yeah. Low maintenance.
Low maintenance, yes.
Yeah. So, and then we have the town hall hour change proposal. Unfortunately, Patty's sick, so she's not here. James has got some data for us.
Yeah, I'm a big data nerd, so if I knew there's gonna be spreadsheets involved, I volunteered to help Patty. I've had some conversations with her too. So I'll jump right into it. So this is a graph showing this is total transactions by time. And there's a few things that are shifting here where you remember we changed our hours halfway through the year. So we opened 8:30 to 9 from January to July 1st, basically. And then from that point on, we're open from 8 to 9. And then we're open 2 nights a week, 5 to 6. Just same deal. We went from 2 nights a week to 1 night a week. So that's when you see the transactions by time. It switches a lot, as you can see. A lot more on the 8 to 9, and then a lot less for 5 to 6. Makes sense because you're open 1 day less a week. Also, I think pandemic times, there's a lot of, it's just like the afternoon is all different. So it's interesting to think of how the pandemic might have affected this as well. And I think this is the meat of it, where it shows, this is it's not transactions, but it's the number of people on average. And this is a 3-day sample that was picked for 2021. You can see there's actually a busy time where there's 23 customers from 11 to 12. And then it kind of, this is a kind of the average pattern. And again, these are actually people that are coming in to do transactions. You can see from 5 to 6, there's 5 customers. So what Patty is proposing, I'm proposing on her behalf tonight, is right now the hours 8 to 4, 8 to 6, 8 to 4, 8 to 4, 8 to 12:30, and we're closed from 2:30 to 2:45 every day, Monday through Thursday, to run reports. And the proposal as of March 1st would be open 5:30 p.m. Monday and Wednesday, and then open Tuesday, Thursday till 5, and be closed on Friday. I think if you go back to here, it's about most of the transactions that are happening from 5 to 6 are happening in that 5 to 5:30 window. And that's yeah, that's it.
Any questions on the proposal?
Steve, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I know that after 4 o'clock, the state shuts down. So if anybody comes in after that and there's a question that has to be answered from the state, or they have to get special permission from the state to do the registration, they have to go turn away and come back during regular working hours for the state. So I don't see a problem, the 5 to 6 time frame really being a big issue for those people that don't think about it and have to get a state question answered because they got to come back anyways.
I also think that we've seen an increase in being things done remotely. You know, if you're registering a car with this pandemic, it's been such that people don't want to come into the town office. They can do everything online with rapid renewal. They can also do their fishing license, hunting licenses online as well. So it's an awful lot of work being done remotely, especially since the pandemic.
Any other questions or comment from the board?
I will ask one additional question. Are those hours, James, do you know from Patty, or maybe Julie can answer, were those meant to be office open for business till those hours, or?
Yes. Yep. Here,
Okay. So that's a little different than what we had before.
this
Before.
yep. So this is these are the town hall hours, and then these are the staff hours.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, was the staff hours.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, James. I think it's important that we conveyed that information to the public, and I think that extra half hour will be beneficial to those who may find it difficult to get there during a certain time frame during the day, but I think it allows them a little more leeway. So I think that's important. So yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Happy to do it. Like I said, I get more enjoyment out of it than I should.
I'm happy that the proposal is open later than 5, because even though the state may shut down, there are town issues that people need to take care of, and is having those 2 nights open that late. I think that would be more than appropriate. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the new hours as presented.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I do have one question that popped up right after I made the motion. When will these hours take effect?
March 1st, was it?
March 1st. Yep.
March 1st, I think, is when they have it listed as.
Okay.
All right. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed? Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes, 4-0. Thank you. Town manager report.
I don't have very much tonight. It's mostly budget, and we're getting through that. We'll hopefully finish up tonight. We did renew our contract with Stewart Ambulance Service. We've been working with them for quite a number of years. They've changed hands once in between all this. So Paul, we wanted to update the contract and have it Stewart Ambulance. And we have an option for, it's a 4-year contract with the option to extend it even longer. The nice part about this, it doesn't cost us any money. It's a great service. They do a great job for the community. And so I signed that contract. Dennis, our chief plant, and I have talked about it before, and we're very happy with what they're doing. And in between, I think their response time dropped down. I was very concerned about that, but once Stewart Ambulance took over, things went right back to where they were in good service. Wright Pierce, I don't think I brought this up before. I signed a contract with them. They will start talking to landowners on 5 or 6 different properties who said that they could have permission to look at their site for aquifers and see if they can get the volume and quality of the water source. That will all start officially in as soon as the ground thaws. They said April, and they should be able to finish up what they need to do by June, and then hopefully on June 8th, when we go on the warrant article, we'll get approval to borrow the 1.2 million. We will be sending out notices and all of the water users about the ballot question. I know we've had complaints ever since I've been here, and I think it goes even longer than that. This is an opportunity to upgrade our water system and improve the water quality. And Jody's doing a great job working with them and the staff. So that's all I have for now.
Any questions of Steve? If not, we'll move on. Let's see. I have nothing under Selectmen's communications, as I'll go to the accounts payable. We have a payroll warrant number 51 for February 18th, 2021 for the amount of $69,616.15. Account payable warrant 53 for February 23rd, 2021. This was one with the school budget in it. The amount of $1,098,408.99. And a payroll warrant number 52 for February 25th, 2021. The amount of $73,481.16. I'll make a motion we pay the bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes. All right. And the new business. That time of the year to start posting roads again.
It's that time of year. Weather like today, I wonder if the frost is going to come out of the ground a little bit quicker, but
Yeah.
up.
I'll go through them.
Yeah, just go through the names.
It says, beginning around the end of February, the following roads will be posted for weights over 23,000 pounds and will remain closed until further notice. Pine Hill Road from Sullivan Street to Messenger's Bridge. Little River Road from Messenger's Bridge to the North Berwick Town Line. Long Swamp Road from Little River Road to the Lebanon Town Line. Cranberry Meadow Road from Pine Hill Road to Old Sanford Road. Old Sanford Road from Cranberry Meadow Road to the North Berwick Town Line. Diamond Hill from Old Sanford Road to Little River Road. The Wentworth Road from School Street to Old Route 4. Blackberry Hill Road from Berwick Road to Portland Street. Guinea Road from Blackberry Hill Road to School Street. And Old Pine Hill Road North from School Street to Pine Hill Road. So, need a motion? Yeah. Can I have a motion to post those roads?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second?
Second.
No further discussion? No further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. 4-0. So now we have quick claim deeds and installment contracts. Karen, are you with us?
That would be Lisa.
I'm here.
Oh, Lisa. Oh, quick claim deed. Oh,
Yeah.
so, well, we'll skip over you just for a second, Karen.
Okay, no problem.
Is the quick claim deed is Lisa Vargas. If you could explain this to us just briefly, if you could.
On February 8th, we took possession of that property. It's land only by foreclosure, and the gentleman called a few days later and offered to pay the bill in full to get the land back. So with Steve's permission, we accepted the payment and quit claiming the land back to him.
All right. Any questions of Lisa? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
No further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Thank you, Lisa. Now we'll get into the abatements. Jump the gun on you.
Thank you. Tonight, we only have one abatement. This is for a property located at 49 Thompson Hill Road. It's a single-family home. The property owner called us to inform us that the dimensions shown on the sketch of his home on the property card were not accurate. So we went out. What's that? Oops. So we went out to the property and measured it, and we corrected the dimensions. As a result of this correction, the assessed value was reduced by $31,500 from $496,300 to $464,800. And so we are recommending that an abatement be granted in the amount of $609.84.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. 4-0. Thank you.
Next item that we have for tonight is a tree growth penalty. This is for the property located at 15 Saddle Hill Road. We received a written request from the property owners, Allison and Michelle Turner, on February 3rd. They requested that 2 acres be removed from tree growth classification. They also updated their application to reflect this change. So as a result of this request, we've removed 2 acres from classification as tree growth, and it will now be assessed in accordance to market value. And a tree growth penalty must therefore be assessed pursuant to the tree growth law. And I provided that calculation on the second page. This calculation is also shared with the property owners, and they agreed that that was the correct calculation for the tree growth penalty. Therefore, it's recommended that the select board approve the tree growth penalty in the amount of $1,020.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Thank you, Karen. Have a good evening.
Have a good night. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, we have no second public comment. We have no executive session. Does anybody have any other business and non-agenda items to bring up?
No.
All right, we will be adjourning our regular meeting and going right into our budget workshop. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. And we will take a couple seconds here and get our paperwork straightened out and move on to our budgets. Tonight we have fire and recreation.
Recreation, that will complete it. We'll do recreation first. Here's a bit of a drive home.
All right, recreation. That's under tab 9, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And you actually sent us an updated budget.
Sent you an updated budget, made some changes. What you're seeing here is our recreation director position is full-time, so that increased our full-time wages. In fact, it's the only full-time wages we have, one person. She has reduced her part-time wages by $35,000. And of course, this adds in benefits and some other things, but so it's she's increased some of her program costs. And it's going to be an interesting year to see all the things that this group is planning. So there's not much else. So we've got 2 people that she's working with that were here before. So she's got some history with some people, and not much else I can tell you. We've increased the, I think, one of the parades. So hopefully we fall back into our regular routine of Halloween and the holiday parade. We'll see how that goes with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Crapshoot, but that's all there is really to it. She's very, very busy, and we're very, very excited, and so is she. And as you can see, and so was Jeremy.
So,
Any
so-
questions of?
I was just gonna offer Angela, anything you'd like to say, Angela?
No, I'm good. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Any questions from the board? So we're looking at quite a large increase, but as Steve said, a lot of that has to do with going to a full-time position now. A lot of things got, bumped up because of that, but I'm hearing a lot of good things all around
A lot
town.
of good things.
All around town that,
People involved that haven't been involved. She's talking to the schools, which I always found a little bit difficult to break into when it comes to participating and using sites, but I have confidence that things are going to change. So I'm excited.
Thank you, Steve.
if there are no questions, we'll move on to fire department.
Yep. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tab number 7.
The fire. Like all our public safety, most every budget this year, not a lot of meat in it this year. It's mostly wages, basic budgets. Increases, most of it comes from the union contract and wages. There were some requests for some extra bodies, but I asked everybody to hold off this year. I know for public safety, it's very difficult, but didn't get much pushback. Everybody recognizes where we are with this pandemic and the unknowns of what we're going to see, but I appreciate staff doing that. So we have, when you look at the budget, it's really a small increase, 2.6%. That's actually less than what the wages increase was. So hopefully 22, 23 will be a different year. And we've done well the last 5 years, last 6 budgets. So this is, and Dennis is here if anybody has any questions of Chief Plant. You can ask away, but.
Any questions, comments? 'Cause I'll just say that I'm surprised with the small increase is with the new station and the expenses that would go with that. I was expecting more, but
I think we'll have a better idea. Well, the The lighting is all LED, like we saw here and all of our other buildings. That's dropped our cost. And heating costs, I think, will probably be the greatest because we're just heating a lot larger building. But overall, there shouldn't be much maintenance to it. So
Right.
at least for the next 10 years, we hope. But
Anything you'd like to add, Chief Plant?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think, 2020 has been a difficult year, an exciting year for the fire department, mainly because of the new station. I still have people on the on-call force that haven't been to the station, of course, because of the virus status, which is unfortunate. A lot of our training that we usually plan on a yearly basis have had to been postponed. But I have to say that the new station is working out well. I don't have to, I want to say, because it is. It's so big, we're having trouble keeping it clean, but we're managing. The other thing that I think, I know the board and the townspeople understand that with the virus going on and for almost a year now, it's putting a toll on staffing. And whether they're EMTs or not, our policies and the way we used to do things have totally changed, and it presents some major concerns. As Steve mentioned, I had requested a extra per diem position this year, but also being a taxpayer and understanding the state of the town at this point, understand why that's not going to go through. But I would highly recommend in the future that the board really give that some consideration, because we're being affected pretty good at this point. But overall, I appreciate the board's support, appreciate the taxpayers' support, and I look forward to next year.
Any questions of the chief? Doesn't appear to be. Is the personnel problems, it was hard enough in the good times to get all the men you needed. So I can imagine now it must be even tougher. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Town Manager?
I think some of the things that we're seeing in Berwick and what we're expecting and what outside groups are expecting is that Berwick is changing. Berwick is growing, and people on the outside looking in are seeing changes coming. So I hope we can get through this pandemic and focus on especially our public safety people, to make sure they have the people and needs they have. We've got great departments, and want to make sure we're giving them the tools to do the job.
So, if there are no further questions for the town manager or the chief, we'll close that budget out. Steve, one thing we haven't talked about is any capital improvements.
There are none. The only capital improvements that we funded this year was the $600,000 for roads. We didn't fund. We funded the patrol car this year.
Patrol car.
But that was a little bit easier this year. Unfortunately, we totaled one, and so the cost is a little bit easier. We're going to replace only one this year anyway. And I did put more money into the public works budget, $15,000 more. The people from HP Fairfield are coming out tomorrow to talk to Public Works to look at the stainless steel body, which should go right onto the new body if we fund that. But we have time to think more about that. We're going to lose a truck.
Right.
Pretty sure of that. Otherwise, nothing else was really funded this year. We have some work to do on this building. We have sewer pipe issues underground that.
Yeah.
But hopefully Lena Clark's funding will take care of that cost. But otherwise, this building is in pretty good shape, and most of our buildings are now. So Public Works could use a few things, but we've managed with it this long, we'll manage with it without doing anything, so. So yeah, we're not funding stuff this year. We're not using funding from our unassigned fund balance. You have a policy in place. We are able to keep what we need to get through the year. And I really, Lisa and I did not want to tap that fund at all this year.
Well, we hit it pretty hard last year.
Yeah, we hit it pretty hard last year.
So.
This year, it really depends on what the school does, and I don't think they're into their process very deep. So right now, we're looking at less than 50 cents. If they were to grow by 5%, if they can grow less than that, that would be really good, but I don't know what's going on with the school system and their funding from the state and how that's going to work.
Right.
So still too early to tell. So this is a short budget, and it'll hopefully go by quickly, and we'll be through the pandemic, and things will return to whatever the new normal is.
Right.
Any questions?
Any questions, comments? If not, I will close out our budget workshop. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I have a